Jordan Akira Meadows, the son of former Alabama and LA Chargers running back Zach Meadows, stood out amongst the California recruiting landscape as one of the top halfback/receiver dual threats in the state. Critics would say that the five-star recruit was skating by on the hype of his father. Ever since Zach Meadows retired, he split his time between Virginia and California each year, and for 6 months, Zach Meadows was his son's high school running back coach during the fall and winter, and then during spring and summer, Zach would move back up to Virginia to help at Fort McNair in DC, training some of the best young military officers in the U.S. And Jordan, one of his two sons, was never interested in carrying on the family military tradition, instead wanting to stay close to his home in California, and his top schools out of high school were USC, Stanford, and his hometown, San Diego State. Stanford made the strongest pitch, and while Jordan was a big partier and liked San Diego State, his father had instilled in him the importance of excelling academically as well, so Jordan went off to Stanford as the third-string running back straight out of the gate. In Jordan's first game against TCU, he was lining up at receiver and had some impactful possessions, showcasing his ability to play both receiver and halfback, just like his dad Zach Meadows did across his entire career. Jordan was getting spot minutes at receiver and rarely got in the backfield with concerns over how small he was, and when he did get his first carry, he got destroyed in the backfield by 3 TCU linemen just immediately. Despite a poor performance as a true running back, Jordan did score his first career touchdown on an angle route, and this would pull Stanford within single digits, and Jordan would get one more opportunity to make a play in the game before being sidelined as the offense walked out 5 receivers, but TCU would still hold on to win the game. And while Jordan finished with 8 carries for -2 yards, he did lead the team in receiving. In week 2, Stanford was up early against the FCS West Royals, and despite an early and consistent lead, Jordan only got on the field for 2 plays. This was shocking as a high-profile recruit who already led the team in receiving the previous week. To not even get 3 snaps was absurd. This of course led to questions and rumors about Jordan being injured, but he was totally healthy. Playing football at Stanford was a big change from high school, and the game was much faster, the players were stronger, and Jordan was the third-string running back to start, moving up to the second string, and in week 3, he had a chance to fight for the starting halfback position. Practices were a chance for Jordan to learn and get better. He listened carefully to the coaches and asked older players for advice, and Jordan worked hard to improve his footwork, get faster, and understand the playbook. His ability to play multiple positions also made him valuable to the team from week 1 on. Even though it was hard, Jordan didn't give up. His skills as both a receiver and a running back helped the coaches try new plays, and Jordan was becoming an important part of the team, and all his hard work was starting to show as he earned the starting running back position. Because his elite route running separated him at running back from his teammates, he chose to focus on that during his practices. And Stanford hadn't had a true freshman starting at running back since 2015 with Bryce Love, who took over for the future Hall of Famer and Christian McCaffrey. In week 3, Stanford was set to play against Syracuse in New York, and Jordan was hyped to get his first crack at starting running back and get some consistent touches on the ground too. And Jordan's first carry got him 2 yards, and on the very next play, Jordan caught it out of the backfield, spun around a defender, and then got absolutely leveled by a linebacker or a safety. And while Jordan didn't get a concussion, he missed the remainder of the game, nursing a chest contusion as Stanford would lose. There may not be a bigger 180 in college football than starting and missing your first game to injury against Syracuse, only to play number 4 Clemson the very next week at Clemson against some of the best athletes in college. And the crowd was deafening, and the first 3 plays, which were drawn up to give the offense some sort of rhythm early, were a nightmare. The Clemson D-line got penetration on 3 straight plays, Jordan lost yards on his first 2 runs, and then Ashton Daniels got sacked on 3rd down before he could even finish the play-action fake. The Stanford defense did their job, but points were hard to come by for the offense apart from a few lucky passes down the field. Stanford still had a shot with 1 more possession and 2 minutes left in the game, but it was 4th and 10, and Ashton Daniels got hit on the throw again by an overpowering defensive line as Clemson would push Jordan and Stanford to 1-3. In week 5, Jordan finally got to move into his dorm. While it was 2 months late, he finally got to share it with his new friend named Mike, and Mike was a linebacker from Texas who loved football, and they quickly became best friends, sharing jokes and listening to music together, and Mike's friendship really helped Jordan feel more comfortable at Stanford, even though he wasn't far from home. Classes at Stanford were really tough, and Jordan had a busy schedule with classes like calculus, ethnographic studies, and econ, and he had to find a way to balance schoolwork and football practice, and Stanford was probably one of the most difficult schools in the country to do that at. Every day was packed. He started with early morning workouts, then went to classes, and ended with long football practices. And Jordan learned how to manage his time wisely so he could fulfill his commitments academically and on the field. And surprisingly, the library became Jordan's favorite place. It was quiet and perfect for studying. He spent hours reading books and taking notes, pushing himself to understand everything that he was learning. And these study sessions taught him some more discipline, so he wouldn't fight the linebacker from Virginia Tech, tackling him 10 yards out of bounds into the kicker net. But it was still another disappointing L on the schedule. Despite a bad start to the season, Jordan's dad, Zach Meadows, was a big help. He called Jordan after every practice to give advice and support. "Remember, Jordan, it's not just about being on the team, it's about making a difference," his dad would say. And these talks reminded Jordan of the legacy that he wanted to create for himself. Zach taught Jordan that doing well in school was just as important as playing football. Jordan took that lesson to heart. He knew that education was important and was determined to do well at Stanford. Balancing both football and schoolwork was going to take a lot of effort, but Jordan was ready for it. And while his dad's advice was helpful, Jordan wanted to make his own path. He wanted to show everyone that he could succeed on his own, and this made him work even harder to push himself to do his best, and he would need all of his effort, and then some, if Stanford had any shot of beating their rivals Notre Dame, who are ranked number 5 in the nation at this point. Stanford was only down 3 right before half, which had to be some sort of small miracle, and after Jordan's catch with 30 seconds left, he got pulled off the field, but the offense scored a walk-off TD to take the lead at half. And Notre Dame came out and answered immediately with a touchdown, but Jordan was having some of his best runs of the season. It was tough to play 2 top 5 teams, and both of them happened to be on the road. Stanford drove down the field and Jordan leaped into the end zone to regain the lead for the Cardinals. He and his teammates were celebrating, but the call ended up being overturned and Jordan refused to be denied, getting in the end zone again off the catch, and that would give Stanford the lead, and they'd never look back as they scored 2 more field goals and stole the game. And while there wouldn't be any fans storming the field, this would be without a doubt the highlight of the season for this underperforming Stanford squad. You might think that after playing 2 top 5 teams, you've gone through the gauntlet and now your schedule is starting to lighten up. Well, that wasn't the case for Jordan or Stanford. They had to play SMU, who was another top 5 team, and they would be the 3rd top 5 team in the last 4 games for Stanford. Meanwhile, off the field, Jordan had explored Stanford's exciting campus life, and there were so many activities and clubs for him to join, and Jordan wanted to try everything. He joined a study group in his econ class, and he met students who challenged him to think in new ways, and Jordan also went to parties and other fun events where he could relax and meet people. He was friendly and outgoing, making it easy for him to make new friends, and everyone knew him for his energy and ability to make people smile. Even though there were a lot of fun things to do, Jordan stayed focused on his goals, and he knew that it was important to balance having fun and working hard. His dad words stayed with him: enjoy the journey, but never lose sight of the destination. Jordan and Stanford were down 7 when they ran a stretch to the left with perfect blocking finally as Jordan jogged his way into the end zone, followed by the next drive where Jordan executed a perfect rub route, pulling the DB off Ayomanor for the 1-play touchdown. SMU, of course, came right back with their own touchdown, and Jordan made one crucial mistake on 3rd and 5, calling for the ball underneath and getting stopped for a 4th down. SMU scored a field goal, and that would be enough for a heartbreaking loss for Stanford, who had the chance to knock off 2 straight top 5s, and to do it at home would have been so sweet. Jordan had the best rushing game of his career with 13 carries and 84 yards and the 1 touchdown, but he didn't have much of an impact receiving with 4 catches for only 9 yards. Jordan made it clear early on that NIL deals were important to him, so he was thrilled to finally sign his first worthwhile one that would give him free access to the wellness center to boost his toughness. As the months went by, Jordan faced new challenges as a college athlete. The busy schedule was hard on his body, and injuries were always a risk, and during one tough practice, he hurt his ankle, which meant he'd have to stop playing for a while. And the injury was frustrating, but it also taught Jordan to be strong. He used this time to watch game film and learning from both his team and his opponents. Jordan worked with the trainers to get better and stay focused on getting back on the field. And while he wasn't totally healthy, he was ready to go for his game against Wake Forest. Jordan had a big-time performance versus Wake Forest, but his team was ice cold in the passing game, with Ashton Daniels throwing a few picks, and Stanford lost their 6th game, meaning they'd have to go undefeated the rest of the way just to make a regular bowl game. Against NC State, on Jordan's 4th carry, he evaded 3 linemen at the handoff to gain yards and broke a tackle while spinning around before taking another vicious hit that left him limping off the field, missing the rest of the game, while Stanford saw their dream of making a bowl game get thrown out the window as NC State stomped Stanford into the turf 48-17. The big change in Jordan's freshman year came during a team meeting after the NC State loss. The head coach praised Jordan's hard work, saying, "Jordan, you're showing us what it means to be a true Cardinal. Battling through 2 significant injuries this season to be out there the next week for your teammates." This boosted Jordan's confidence and confirmed his place on the team. And again, Jordan was the running back one since week 3, but again, freshman running backs just weren't very common, and Jordan's role on the team only grew bigger in the final 3 weeks of the season. Coach started creating plays just for him, using his skills to their advantage. Whether he was running the ball or catching passes, Jordan was unpredictable and made the team better. His teammates admired his ability to play different positions, and he became a key player in important moments. All of his hard work was paying off, and his confidence was soaring. He was proving that he belonged at Stanford not just because of his father's name, but because of his own talent and effort. He had a grittiness to him that the high school scouts and critics didn't see. He wasn't just coasting, he wanted more for himself and for the Stanford program that was being disgraced by this awful season. Off the field, Jordan continued to do well in his classes. He found a love for economics thanks to a professor who made him think deeply about its real-world applications, and Jordan stayed after class to talk with his professor often. His success in school was a sign of the lessons his dad had taught him about being a well-rounded adult. He was able to maintain a 3.8 GPA with essentially a full-time job on his plate. Stanford was always playing for pride, but now it was just about the pride with no chance of a bowl game or any end-of-season celebration, and winning this game against Cal was about nothing more than pride. Jordan was stuffed at the goal line not once, not twice, but 3 times on separate possessions. And it was starting to feel like he wasn't going to get into the end zone the entire game, but then he broke off his biggest run of the year, and he should have the breakaway speed, but he was caught just inside the 10-yard line. And winning this game would not only add a win to the rivalry, but it would also put Cal out of contention for a bowl game as well. And finally, Jordan got into the end zone when it mattered most in the fourth to stamp a W on the schedule. Finally. Jordan had another solid game with 13 carries for 85 yards, a touchdown, and then a couple of catches for 40 yards. And the final game of the season came against San Jose State, and Stanford had an opportunity to finish the season with 2 straight wins. And throughout his freshman year, Jordan learned how important it was to balance everything. This was the year of balancing as a freshman, managing school, sports, and social life. It was not easy, but he learned how to prioritize his time, and late night study sessions, early morning workouts, and weekend fun became his routine. Not only did Jordan have a duty to his team and his schoolwork, but he also mentored his half-brother Zacchaeus, who was a high school quarterback in Atlanta. And even though Jordan never played the position, Zacchaeus still wanted tips from Jordan because Zacchaeus was a run-first QB who was thinking about making the switch to running back when he hit college. If you're curious about what's next for Jordan after his freshman year, he made a commitment to stay at Stanford for his sophomore year already. He wants to stay there all 4 years at Stanford, but of course there are other factors that do matter, like Stanford getting a good group of players together and actually getting to a bowl game. So Jordan knows internally that if things play out next season in a similar fashion to how they did his freshman year, he will be entering the portal. But for now, Jordan is just happy to be right where he's at, home in California. And Jordan was able to make freshman All-ACC and also freshman All-American. He finished the year with a modest 129 carries for 446 yards, along with 460 receiving yards and a pair of touchdowns.